Hello and welcome to Annie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Ghostly Night of Carisbrooke Castle. The wind howled through the crumbling walls of Carisbrooke Castle, a mournful wail that echoed through the Isle of Wight's darkened hills. The moon, a sickly yellow, cast eerie shadows upon the stone, elongating them like grasping fingers. Holly Arnold shivered as she tightened her coat around her shoulders. She had always been drawn to places steeped in history, but tonight there was something different about the castle, something watching. The legend was well known. A ghostly knight clad in rusted armor wandered the castle grounds in search of a treasure hidden centuries ago. No one had ever found it, but those who tried never returned the same. Some went mad. Others disappeared entirely. Holly, a historian with a penchant for the supernatural, intended to uncover the truth. She stepped cautiously past the massive portcullis, her boots crunching against the frost-kissed gravel. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and something else, something metallic, like old blood. A flickering lantern illuminated the path, its weak glow barely cutting through the dense fog that coiled like serpents along the ground. A distant clank rang out. Holly froze. The sound was unmistakable, armor shifting, footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Her breath caught in her throat. She scanned the darkness, but saw nothing. Yet the air felt charged, as if unseen eyes were locked onto her every movement. Summoning her courage, she pressed on, her fingers trailing along the ancient walls. Time had worn them down, but there was strength in their structure, an unbroken defiance. The deeper she ventured, the heavier the atmosphere became. It felt as though the very walls were breathing, whispering secrets too terrible to be spoken aloud. Then she saw him. A figure stood at the end of the corridor, partially shrouded in mist. The dim light of her lantern reflected off the tarnished metal of his armor, revealing deep gashes and ancient battle scars. His helmet obscured his face, but Holly felt his gaze pierce through her as though he could see into the marrow of her soul. A wave of cold washed over her as the knight raised his sword. Not in hostility, but in warning. Leave came a voice from nowhere and everywhere at once. Holly's heart pounded. Every rational thought told her to flee, but curiosity anchored her in place. "Why?" she whispered. The knight did not move, but the air around her thickened. Visions flickered through her mind of battles long past, betrayal, a desperate attempt to hide something of immense power. The knight had been its guardian in life, and now in death. A sudden gust extinguished her lantern, plunging her into darkness. The castle groaned as if in protest, and then she heard it, the sound of stone shifting. She reached out blindly, her hands finding a cold, damp wall. As her eyes adjusted, she noticed something peculiar. The stones at her feet had moved ever so slightly, revealing a small gap. A hiding place. The treasure. A pulse of energy surged through the air. The knight's presence loomed over her, and for the first time, Holly felt genuine fear, not of the spirit, but of what she might uncover. A shadow moved. Not the knight, but something else. Something darker. The air turned frigid, her breath coming in ragged gasps. A whispering chorus rose from the walls, unintelligible at first, then clear. "Do not disturb the past." The knight's grip on his sword tightened. Holly swore she saw the air shimmer around him, as if he were battling forces unseen. Then the temperature plummeted. Ice crystallized along the stone floor. The ground trembled beneath her feet. The shifting stones began to widen, as though something beneath was waking. Holly's pulse pounded in her ears. The knight turned his head, his hollow gaze fixing on her, pleading. She understood now. This wasn't just about treasure. It was a prison. A deep, guttural growl rumbled from below, something ancient stirring from slumber. The knight stepped forward, placing himself between Holly and the widening gap. A sudden force pushed Holly backward, slamming her into the cold wall. Shadows writhed from the pit, forming grotesque, twisted figures that clawed at the air. The knight raised his sword, the blade glowing faintly, and struck at the encroaching darkness. The creatures shrieked, their wails a chorus of agony that sent Holly's blood running cold. Holly struggled to her feet, her instincts screaming at her to run. But the knight stood firm, his armor shimmering as he fought against the darkness. His sword slashed through the shadows, forcing them back into the pit. The ground beneath them quaked violently, as if the castle itself were alive and enraged. Then silence. The knight turned to her once more, his form beginning to fade, his purpose fulfilled. Holly knew she had to leave. Whatever had been imprisoned beneath Carisbrooke Castle was never meant to be freed. She took one last look at the hidden chamber, its horror sealed once more. As she fled the castle, the wind carried a final whisper through the night. Remember. The ghostly night was gone, but Holly knew the curse of Carisbrooke Castle would linger forever. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.